In today's Aviation recap, there's coverage on upcoming Riyadh Air that is signing new partnerships as it gears up for launch. Over to Qantas, well, they're nearing the launch of Project Sunrise, with an important development occurring on the Airbus A350. And lastly, Airbus could be signing a major new aircraft order for an aircraft family that has relatively seen slow sales, and that's where I would like to begin. Bloomberg is reporting that the Airbus A330neo could be inching closer to a much-needed order from several of the largest airlines in China. The European aircraft manufacturer is reportedly in close contact with Chinese companies regarding a sale of more than 100 units of this aforementioned mid-sized wide-body. As a result, the purchase would be a much-needed commitment for a program that has seen relatively slow progression regarding its order tally. Airbus launched the A330neo as a cheap upgrade to the existing A330ceo. It was also widely considered the low-risk option. And we know the previous version has been incredibly popular and reliable. The A330neo was considered the alternative also to the 787, which has been an extremely successful aircraft offered by Boeing in the same category, if you will. However, following the launch of the A330neo, well, has experienced relatively slow growth in the market, with interest levels just not quite being there, as customers have either sought after the 787, which was already well established, or the larger A350. In some cases, companies that may be looking towards the A330neo actually end up selecting the A321neo family to say complement the A350 and skip out the A330neo completely. Why? Because they use the extended capabilities of the A321neo family to their advantage. As for the order that is set to come from the Chinese market, well, this is an incredibly lucrative one. Airbus is doing everything they can to provide the necessary aircraft for customers in China, which is expected to need significant amounts of new aircraft in the next 20 years. Airbus knows it's going to face competition from Boeing, but also emerging Comac, who is hoping to take on your two leading industry manufacturers with its own offerings. Specifics around this A330neo deal have not been disclosed, nor has a timeframe for the order, so it all is pretty vague at the moment. We just have reports that Airbus is closing in on that important deal. It would significantly improve the A330neo's backlog and enable long-term production of the aircraft type as well. At the moment, if you take a look at competitor Boeing's presence in China, well, it's sparked question marks as Airlines and the regulator for China remains hesitant to really commit further to the manufacturer. Boeing has faced continued problems with quality of its aircraft, which has led to financial implications for its airline customers right around the world. But if you take a look at Chinese regulators' responses, well, they've probably been the most harsh. Ultimately, Airbus and even emerging Comac are looking to pounce on Boeing's misfortune by agreeing on many new aircraft orders to ensure that deliveries can continue for their planes well into the 2030s. And now onto an emerging airline. Riyadh Air is hoping to become the newest threat in the Middle East region, planning to launch commercial flights as early as 2025. In the coming months, we already know that the airline will begin critical test certification flights to get itself approved to eventually launch operations with passengers aboard. Riyadh Air is part of Saudi Arabia's view of growing its aviation sector and allowing it to contribute to the economy. As a result, we've seen significant purchases of new aircraft, investments in infrastructure, and much more. And now, this brand new airline is partnering with some major players in the Asian part of the industry. The first carrier that Riyadh Air has partnered with is none other than Singapore Airlines. The MOU was signed at the 80th International Air Transportation Association IATA annual general meeting. The MOU will enable the airlines to examine opportunities for future interline connectivity. While this is still subject to regulatory approval, it would allow Riyadh Air to greatly benefit from Singapore Airlines' already fantastic connections. We know Singapore Airlines to be a major player in our industry, so it's a pretty big catch. Meanwhile, for Singapore Airlines passengers in the future, they'll benefit from accessing the Riyadh Air network that'll span across the Middle East. Benefits extend extend further to frequent flyer members, cargo operations, and overall seamless connectivity opportunities that are being described. Riyadh Air's CEO Tony Douglas calls the partnership important and with the best airline in the world. The upcoming airline also highlights great potential in the Southeast Asia region alongside Australia and New Zealand. So as a result, Singapore Airlines becomes that all-important partner when you consider just how many flights per day they fly into key ports such as Melbourne and or Sydney. Sticking with Asia, Riyadh Air also announced it had signed an MOU with Air China, also to be signed at the IATA annual general meeting. Once Riyadh Air launches, the carrier believes a partnership with Air China will enable fantastic connectivity between the two G20 capital cities. Furthermore, the airline believes that there are opportunities with interline traffic, code sharing, and so much more on top of that as the airlines look to establish their relationship for the long term. As Riyadh Air launches, it knows it won't have the largest network, so these partnerships will be hugely important for the airline to help establish itself and offer worthwhile codeshare partnerships with some of your largest airlines established in Asia. Eventually, as the Saudi Arabian-based company develops, it can offer its codeshare partners greater benefits across its network in the Middle East. Look no further than the upcoming narrow-body operation that is likely to be powered by Boeing single-aisle jets should really enhance that. Over to the final story, and Qantas's Airbus A350 launch is getting one step closer following a landmark certification. The flag carrier confirmed the all-important third fuel tank on the A350-1000 has now been certified. Qantas will use an enhanced A350-1000 for its Project Sunrise flights, which will focus on ultra-long-range journeys that exceed 20 hours of non-stop flight time. As a result, the airline needs an aircraft that can be airborne for such a long duration. When Qantas was considering all of its available options and Airbus put forward an enhanced A350-1000, it certainly became a front-runner and eventually the aircraft type that the airline proceeded to order with. Vanessa Hudson, who is the CEO that replaced Alan Joyce of the company, said that thanks to the Australian Civil Aviation Authority certifying the extra fuel tank, the necessary next steps for delivery can begin. Qantas expects first delivery in mid-2026, with actual Project Sunrise flights commencing later that same year. Crew familiarization will occur first, flights with shorter duration. This is similar to most new aircraft type that enter an airline's fleet. This actually occurred with Qantas's introduction of the 787 Dreamliner, flying popular routes such as Melbourne to Sydney. On several occasions, however, the launch of Project Sunrise has been delayed for reasons outside of Qantas's control, but some also because of its decision-making. We know the global pandemic significantly delayed the airline's ability to purchase the aircraft and get the program off the ground. As travel demand plummeted and harsh restrictions fell on Australia, Qantas had far greater concerns. Furthermore, we've seen the airline look to continuously rebuild its relationship with Australian citizens and the travelling public. This is an uphill battle following decisions that were made during the pandemic that have come back to bite them. At the beginning of 2024, Qantas announced that its first A350 delivery would slip from the previous 2025 target timeframe to 2026. Additionally, we saw delays with other Airbus aircraft types. They become one of the latest airlines to publish such forecasting as major airlines continue to feel the effects of ongoing supply chain issues, difficulties in certification, approval, and working through backlogs on the part of your aircraft manufacturer. But once launched, Project Sunrise will represent Qantas's final frontier in travel. The flights will really remove geographical boundaries, which have meant that Qantas has been unable to reach certain markets. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It certainly does mean a lot. Please take care. Do also be safe. I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow for your latest aviation news recap.
And we'll fly.